That's the best of it. The worst of the news out of the round is the savage fallout from Saturday night that centres on Izak Rankine, who is tonight the source of an AFL integrity investigation which is reaching its end point, and the likelihood is a suspension that will end his season comes from headquarters tomorrow. He stayed away from the Crows today, I think for reasons that are understandable. It did leave his teammates to face the questions.
I mean, it's not ideal, but it's obviously in the AFL's hands, and we'll let them investigate it and see what happens.
Are you worried about, I guess, what a potential big ban for Izak could mean for the finals campaign?
I mean, like I said, we'll wait and see, but we'll leave it up to the AFL to go through what they have to go through.
Does another incident like this speak to a cultural issue within the AFL?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's definitely not ideal, is it? But yeah, we'll work through stuff. We've got a game this week, so we'll focus on that.
This has been the scourge of the competition for a year and a half now. It's Andrew Dillon's absolute passion project to stamp this out of the game, and the intrusion of a word which has no place in common use. And I didn't feel like I'd heard it for 20 years before it has started to flow in here. The sequence of events, so it was a tense night. It was physically played in close quarters, and Ranken was involved at various stages in pitted battles with Izak Rankine, which then spilled to other opponents. The players on the field were well aware of what had been said, and yesterday Collingwood contacted Adelaide to inform them of what was known. Adelaide then handed it over to the AFL Integrity Unit, who have staged their investigation today. Both players have been spoken to. Ranken about 4 o'clock this afternoon to understand his version of events. So what happens? These are dealt with as summary judgments. There's no tribunal hearing or the like. We've seen these go to the legal experts in a very real way. I think these have been Andrew Dillon's calls along the way, and where these penalties have landed. So the first was Finlayson with 3 weeks, and that came with a warning. If it happened again, it would be more. The second was Will Powell, who got the 5 weeks with there are no excuses for this conduct in our game. Will Graham's the most recent, and we lived through this with the two coaches from West Coast and the Giants. Jack Graham. So I think you could interpret that the base penalty is 5 weeks, and Jack Graham was adjudged to have self-reported, and the level of remorse was such that he was able to get 5 weeks down to 4 weeks. It remains to be seen through the investigation whether Izak Rankine would qualify for that. But as we sit here now, if it is all established, he will be looking at a 5-week suspension.
Yeah, so the Crows haven't put a foot wrong since the halfway mark of the year. They've done everything right. They've got themselves into a top 2 spot. They'll host a home final, and they're going to have arguably their best player jumping out of your skin, fully fit, sitting in the grandstand. That's a worst case. That's a worst case scenario for any club, and I've got no sympathy for him. I understand how it happens. I understand that, but this is not sympathy for Izak. This is sympathy for the Adelaide Footy Club, who couldn't imagine they find themselves in this situation after one of their great wins against a club they haven't been able to beat, and they're premiership favourites for a reason. They've got a city behind them, and now fighting fit, sitting in a stand, Izak Rankine, that's nearly the worst case you could hope for.
Where we find ourselves as an AFL community is troubling. I mean, this is well declared. The Finlayson incident was distasteful and was the clearest warning. I remember thinking at the time, this word I hadn't heard it in 20 years. It doesn't feel like it's in any sort of usage, but evidently with a certain demographic in various places, it is. And it's the sort of thing that needs to be addressed in locker rooms. If in any way this is part of your vocabulary, these are the 2 reasons it needs to be out. What it means from a society point of view, and secondly, what the potential ramifications are. If you reach for this word in the heat of battle, it just can't be part of any sort of flippancy or whatever else goes on between 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
And then we find ourselves here, and as a code, this is an awful pattern of behaviour over 18 months.
So the code is doing its best to stamp it out. It's the players now that need to lead the way and take responsibility. Now, everything you say is right, but I can't guarantee you that it won't happen again, Jared, because that's what happens in these games, in this battle. Again, it's not sympathy or an excuse, but they will reach for a word. And, we're hoping in 5, 10 years' time it's never heard again. But it would appear that it is still being used enough to know that, in these heightened senses of an AFL field, you say things that you don't mean. Well, I hope he doesn't mean it, and you're remorseful, but that happens.
Ralphie, some monster news which you broke last night as an exclusive. The Adelaide star Izak Rankine is set for a lengthy ban on the sidelines.
That's right. So Izak has been interviewed by the AFL's integrity team this afternoon. And as we speak, Adelaide will desperately try and haggle this down to a 3-week ban for that homophobic slur against his opponent on Saturday night. I don't think that's going to wash. I think even the Crows would acknowledge that a 4 or 5 week ban is headed his way, which will effectively end his season. I can tell you tonight that Ranken did not self-report as a result of the events of that Saturday night incident. Collingwood players were aware of it post-match. There was a discussion about it. Collingwood and Adelaide spoke across Sunday afternoon. That was initiated by Collingwood, and then Adam Kelly, the Adelaide football boss, escalated to the integrity team. So he didn't come forward post-match. He certainly didn't have fits of regret and then call anyone in the next 24 hours. He did, in his interview, speak about his contrition, his apology on Sunday to that player involved and the extenuating circumstances. But the base sanction here is 5 weeks. Even Jack Graham, who self-reported and got 4, was extremely lucky. So I just can't see any way in which Ranken receives a 3-week ban. I don't think the AFL will do it. I don't think the AFL industry or the wider community would accept it. Now, again, it could be 4 weeks, and if they lose a qualifying final and go the hard way through, he might be playing again. But it seems like he's likely played his last game this season.
That is a big, big price to pay at an important time. 5 weeks. It cannot be anything other than 5 weeks.
Well, I think the cynics, if you gave him 4 weeks, the cynics would say the AFL's giving him a chance, which he doesn't deserve. So that's why I think it probably would be 5 weeks just to take that off the table, especially when there's form there with Will Powell, who had a 5-week suspension.
It's a rinse and repeat from Will Powell. Same language, same sort of
Well,
stuff.
that's right. And because of the recency of the incidents, you can't say the players haven't been warned about it. So it just couldn't be in the vocabulary at all. It just couldn't be part of what happens out in the footy field. So very disappointing.
The precedents is the 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah.
You always wondered if you were starting again, what should penalties for this kind of thing be? Like, should it be...
Well, what do you think it should be?
Well, I just think to myself, is this where a big fine as well? Like, in other words, OK, there's 5 weeks. It's a relative thing, but is it like a $50,000 fine and a couple of weeks suspension? Like, a significant fine as well as weeks.
Did you think that would be more of a deterrent than just the 5 weeks?
Well, it's already a deterrent, but the words slip out and then you've got to, do the crime, you do the time. But I just wonder if in terms of what's a fair penalty for things like this, as we know, to get 4 or 5 weeks for a physical indiscretion, geez, you'd want to knock someone in the next week to get 5 weeks, wouldn't you? Yeah. So it's a big number of weeks in terms of the on-field suspensions, but whether a big fine and a few less weeks is a reasonable way of looking at it?
Well, I don't mind it.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think it's hard to defend a player when he's used that type of language on the field. But I think exactly what Damien Harvick was saying on 360, the precedence has been set, so there's no way that we could come back. I like the alternative, absolutely. Less weeks out on the field, but more of financial sanction. Now, would that be a bigger deterrent? I don't know.
How would the public go with that, though?
I think either way they would be in uproar.
Suspensions seem more powerful, though, to the public, don't they? Now, this is obviously a public perception.
Depending on the size of the
branding.
financial.
But like your 50,000, talking a big one.
Is a lot.
A big one.
I know, but we've just been talking about players on $2 million.
Not every player's on $2 million.
Yeah, I know, but the perception is that all these players are on over $1 million. There is a perception out there that these players were earning massive money. So it would have to be
50 large is 50 large. It's a long
time ago now. Long time ago now since the outside bled across the white line and vice versa. So it's not as if the players that take the field now or that represent their clubs or the league, it's not as if they're not understanding of the bigger impact that it has on the wider society. And I commend the AFL for what it's been able to build, for what it's done. It was inevitably going to get to a situation like this. I bet, like Ranken would be beside himself, with the mistake that he's made. It's going to cost his team, and it's going to cost his club, and it's going to cost him. This one's going to really sting.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the impact that it's going to have on Adelaide's chances. It looks like they will finish first with a double chance and the potential to play 2 finals at home, which gets them to the MCG on that last Saturday in September. How big of an impact is this going to have on Matthew Nicks and the Adelaide Crows?
Oh, you double that with Rochelle as well. So they're 2 small forwards. But I think the position that he's certainly played post-bye has been more forward and they've been a lot more dangerous in that particular part of the ground. So he's one of the most exciting players in the competition. He adds a lot in terms of where he plays and the scoreboard impact that happens around this Adelaide Football Club. So absolutely he'll hurt. They'll finish, as Brownie said, first on the AFL ladder after the home and away season. But I just can't help to think that without him, they don't win it.
But he's a genuine match winner. We've seen it in the last 2 weeks. You know, that particular goal and his performances against Hawthorn. And then you put in, like, when the game needed to be won to get over the line against West Coast last week, it was he and Thilthorpe that got it done in the last quarter. So he has been and is a genuine match winner. He's been used predominantly as a forward in recent times. But when break glass in case of emergency, go into the midfield and give us something. You miss that lever to pull now. Now, if Rochelle comes back in, that might be timely, similar role, but probably hasn't played it as well as Ranken.
He's unlikely to make it. You're right, hasn't been consistent. I think last year it's the reason they didn't make the finals. He only played 15 games. This year's been true. He's probably, along with Thilthorpe, the two most important players. I know Dawn's the key.
Yeah. You say they can't win it without him. Just quickly round the couch. Can they win it without Izak Rankine?
I think they've got enough momentum to be able to carry it.
So they can?
I think they can, but
Brownie?
they'd be much better chance with him.
They can, but I don't think they will.
What about you, Lee?
Yeah, they still can.
Yeah, I think I'm in the camp with you. I think your best player is out, and they cannot win the flag this year without Izak Rankine.